Welcome, my name is Maria Kondzielska and this is Poland Daily Culture special edition in the middle of war in Ukraine. We're still discussing the ethical, philosophical and social influences aspect of it to the rest of the world and how can we understand what is happening. With me in the studio is Marek Kondzielski, Polish philosopher. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
I would say that a month ago or 2 months ago, it would be even hard to say that we will be in the middle of war. And what is happening in Europe, in Ukraine, is such kind of war, and the history repeats itself. The civilians are dying, and the Ukrainian state is left alone, in the same way as the Polish state was left alone at the beginning of the World War II. Those parallels are very clear, and I guess the whole Poles feel somewhere behind our skin that if Ukraine falls, if Kyiv falls, then we'll be the next. And there is no stop of Russia there, because since the end of the World War II, Russia is all the time causing problems, troubles, aggression, and I don't know what's the result of it.
Well, Russia is obviously the greatest threat to international peace. And openly speaking, there are only one circumstances that their attitude may change. And this circumstances reads unconditional surrender. I know that everybody is aiming at avoiding World War III, but unfortunately this situation very much resembles a situation that was commented by Churchill just before World War II, after this conference in Munich, when he said that you had to choose between shame and war, and you choose shame and you will have war despite of that. So I'm afraid it's not going to stop. Russia is trying to involve more and more countries and more and more nations into war, like Belarus, like Syria, like Kazakhstan, like Chechnya.
China.
And again, they are aiming against other countries. We can see that some states like Sweden, Norway and Finland are very much afraid of their security. We see declarations from some states in Balkan region wanting to join NATO, and we see an immediate reaction from the part of Putin that if you want to join NATO, we have Ukrainian scenario for you, which is a open threat
to the...
and nobody reacts. And this is very shame and very sad that Europe is again pacified. Europe is again impotent in political terms, in military terms, to react and to object against evil. It was exactly the same during the Balkan War, that only the arrival of the United States to Europe again saved the situation. So we are still in a situation where the Yankees are the only one that could help, and we entirely depend on their will, which means that we have no will to oppose. I think that in Poland we do have will to oppose, that if the war comes here, we will be fighting no matter if they will help us or not. But this is very frustrating, really, that we have neighbors which are absolutely impotent and which are not willing to risk anything.
Which they're willing to risk a lot only to keep the status quo. So to give up the truth, to give up their moral duty, just to keep the status quo still happening, to do the deals and business with Russia, to get rich and to keep their level of life. But the question is that the problem with Russia comes back and back since the end of the World War II, since Russia and this Russian society never felt that they were responsible for anything. We can say openly, we go to the Nazi concentration camps, the German concentration camps, all over Europe, and they are a place for memory. They are a place which we see and which we go as a reminder of what a human nature can bring to. But no one can even commemorate their they're a part of their families. They're in the communism camps, because most of those camps are still going on and still working on the Russian soil. So Russian society never felt that they have any moral duty after the World War II, and they first felt that they are still the victors. They're still the victor power, and they still have a right. Also, they have a moral right to extend and defend their Lebensraum and their life and their place in Europe. And it's deeply frightening. And what it seems like what we need right now is really a general pattern.
Russia and Russian society have developed their own vision of the world that is entirely incompatible with the Western one, and which is delusional in our terms. But there will be no coming back to status quo. There should be no talks with Putin and his cabinet. And sooner or later we will unfortunately experience this.
But there are still talks. We still give a chance, and United Nations give a voice to Lavrov, who tells lies for 2 hours and no one stops him. I would say it's a disgrace for why United Nations exists altogether if they cannot. They're spreading lies, and they are incompetent. I mean, they are impotent, and as itself, as an organization.
I'm afraid that we have constructed some fictitious world that is not facing the reality. That the situation is very similar to the 1940s, when they were saying about the campaigns. There was Polish campaign, there was Norwegian campaign, there was France campaign, and only then they realized that it's no longer a campaign, this is World War II. How far we have to go and how far we have to experience the evil before we start opposing and we start thinking there is no other path, no other way than to stand and to fight against evil, even by force. But this is still time to push on Russia, I believe, so firmly that they withdraw, but I'm afraid that nobody will be willing to follow this path. We will be pacified as long as the bombs will come to Western capitals, and only then they will realize that no common grounds to negotiate anything with Putin and Russian elites, because their vision of the world and of the world order is entirely incompatible with ours.
And we'll wrap up this episode with this statement. There's, I guess, nothing more to add. But the message for you, everyone who watches this war over in the world, is the fact that we have to accept the reality. We have to wake up and see what's going on, and also accept the truth about Russia. And because it seems like the Russia will not change by itself, but it needs to be forced to be changed. And we'll see what the future brings. Thank you very much for watching Poland Daily Culture.